Okay, hello grade 10s. We are doing creditors allowances journal. I will be doing a little bit more of the creditors journal in this one because there are some transactions with the creditors journal. So we're going to do an example from Sonia's Cafe. Okay, and through this example I hope that you guys can see how to post to the ledgers and post the different journals. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is go through each transaction as it goes, okay, and then see if it's going to go to the CJ or the CAJ. Now these are just because there's a few transactions. This is just transactions that's been taken from a bigger example. So in between these transactions you will get CRJ transactions, you will get CPJ transactions, DJ, DAJ. Okay, so we're just going to deal with the CJ and CAJ for now in this video. Okay, so let's go through it. So it says bought merchandise on credit from Sparky & Co. Now this is important, we bought it. Okay, so if we buy it, that means it's our creditors and it's bought on credit, so it's going to go in the CJ. Okay, and let's use a highlighter for Sparky & Co. just to keep track of him. On the 10th, Sonia's Cafe. So Sonia's Cafe is us. Okay, so remember to take note of who is who because this is going to tell you if it's going to go in the CJ or the DJ. So if it's our creditor or if it's our debtor. Okay. So Sonia's Cafe complained to Sparky & Co. that the trade discount of 40 Rand was not deducted by them on the invoice issued on the 9th. We sent them a debit note J9 for this amount. Okay. So they promised us a trade discount of 40 Rand and this wasn't deducted. So that's why we are asking for an allowance. So this will go in the CAJ and it's with Sparky & Co. Okay, then receive the following on credit from Macro Supplies. So we bought this on credit from Macro Supplies, so it goes in our CJ and it's Macro Supplies. Okay, then on the 17th, returned 150 Rands worth of stationery to Macro Supplies as it was unsuitable. Issued a debit note of J10. So first we can see that we returned, okay, so that will immediately tell us it's the CAJ, and the fact that they say a debit note was issued. So it will go in the creditors allowance journal because they are sending back, we are sending back the stationery that we bought because we are unhappy with it, okay, that we bought from our creditors. Then, let's just highlight this quickly. Then Alco Services, so Alco Services is one of our creditors as well, undertook repairs to the refrigerator for Sonia's Cafe of 190 Rand, received a credit invoice from them for this amount owing. So we paid on credit for repairs, so this goes in our CJ. Okay, so now that we've got that sorted, now we can start posting to our journals. So you first post to your journals, then you do your journal ledger, then you do your creditors ledger, and then your creditors list. Okay? So let's post all these transactions to the relevant journals. We can do it like that. Okay. So the first things first, we said here we're going to post it to the CJ because we bought on credit. So invoice number, they give it to us is X4. The day is the 9th. My creditor was Sparky & Co. Okay. And in the creditors journal, or creditors control, because the two accounts affected is we're going to, because we bought it, our trading stock increases, so we debit trading stock because it's merchandise, and we credit creditors control because we owe them more money. So our creditors control increases on the credit side, so that's why we put it on the creditors side. Now I just realized I haven't filled in these columns here, which you guys will have, so let me quickly do that. So this one is trading stock. This one is equipment. This one is stationery. Okay, same thing. Okay, so now I can carry on. Okay, so Sparky and Co. In our creditors control, we're going to do 400 because we're paying on credit, and then the other account affected is our trading stock, which is 400. Okay, so because we bought it on credit, it goes into our creditors journal. Then it says Sonia's Cafe complained about the trade discount, and we said this is going to go into our allowance because they forgot the 40 Rand, so we want that 40 Rand deducted from our account. So the two accounts affected, now with our creditors control, when we buy on credit, our account increases. So if you look at creditors control, it's a liability, so I'll just say CC, it's a liability, so it increases on the credit side and decreases on the debit. So when we buy goods, our account increases, so that's why we put it on the credit side. And when we, now with this one, the 40 Rand was not deducted, so now they are deducting it from our account, so our account is lessened by 40 Rand. So that's why it will go into our CAJ, and the two accounts affected will be debit, creditors control, because it's going to go on the debit side to decrease our account, and credit, trading stock. Okay, so do you see that it's just reversed of this transaction of just 40 Rand, so that our account is less 40 Rand now. So it will go in our CAJ, so your debit note number is J9, like they said. Your day is the 10th, creditor, Sparky and Co. Okay, creditors control of 40 Rand and trading stock of 40 Rand. Okay, then the second one, third one, we bought on credit, so that goes in our creditors journal, and like we said, so our invoice is B2, the date is the 15th, and it's from Macro Supplies, and because it's from the same creditor and on the same day, we add these two amounts together for creditors control, so that's 2,000, and then in each column will go each amount for each item. So for equipment we bought 1,200 Rands worth, and for stationery we bought 800 Rands worth. Okay, then on the 17th we returned stationery. Okay, so that's our creditors allowances journal. So our debit note is J10, like they said. On the 17th, Macro Supplies. Okay, creditors control of 150 Rand. Alright, and stationery of 150 Rand, because the stationery is what we returned. Okay. Then we bought or we paid for repairs on credit. So on credit will be our word. So credit invoice. So that tells us it's on credit. So it's going to go in this CJ. So then our invoice is V12 on the 24th. Alco Services. and it costs 190 Rand. And because repairs does not have its own column, I'll put it in sundry accounts under repairs. Okay. Alright, so now that we've posted to our journals, okay, so let's do the totals and then we'll start with the general ledger. So for creditors control, and that's CJ. So that gives me 2,590, 400. Okay. And for this one, it cost. Okay, so I've done my total, so now I can actually do my ledger. Okay, so I've left out some of the ledgers because I just want to focus on the ones so that you can see how the CAJ gets impacted. So where as usual you'll have ledgers for equipment, for repairs, so each one will have its own ledger, but for in this instance I'm just going to do a few ledgers so that you can see with the CAJ, because that is what we are focusing on. Okay, so if you've got your trading stock ledger, you're going to look for your balance and you're going to put your balance in from the previous month. Remember, your trading stock is an asset, so it increases on the debit, decreases on the credit. So your balance will increase the amount because trading stock is left over from last month. Okay, so that's what this transaction would be. So these transactions that I've put in already is what you would have done, because you'll have the balances, you'll have your DJ, your DAJ, your CRJ, all of that will still be, we are just focusing on CAJ and CJ, but these transactions will still be transactions that you need to post. Okay, then we've got our cost of sales from DAJ. So if you remember with when customers return trading stock, it also goes into our trading stock account and our trading stock increases. Then with the DJ, so if debtors buy stock, so that lessens our trading stock, so that comes from the DJ. Then if we sell stock, that is in our CRJ because money is coming in, so that's where this transaction comes from. Now we're going to look at our creditors journal and creditors allowances journal. So you go journal by journal and you do all the ledger entries for those. So first of all, with creditors control, if we are buying trading stock, then our trading stock is increasing. And you could see in the previous video, this is why we're going to put it on the debit side. So it will be the 31st because trading stock has its own column. Okay, and our contra account is creditors control. Okay, so don't be confused because I know these are all costs of sales, but this is creditors control. Okay, because we are paying on credit. So creditors control, and our folio is CJ, and this we bought 400 Rands worth of trading stock. Now with your creditors allowances journal, or let's actually just do the creditors journal for now. So I've done my trading stock account. My next ledger is creditors control. So I check in my creditors journal. I have got my creditors control account because this is the amount that I owe for all my creditors. So creditors control is a liability. So it decreases on the debit and increases on the credit. So you'll have a balance brought down from the previous month. Now, if we've bought on credit, that means our account is increasing. So the amount that we owe them is increasing, and that's why we're putting it on the credit. So it will be the 31st because it's got its own column. 31st, this will be total purchase or payments. I think it's payments. As far as payments or purchases. So let's do purchases. Okay, with this one as well, okay, you can write sundry accounts as well. Either one will be right. So total purchases, because this is our total purchases from the CJ, and we bought a total of 2,590 rands worth. Okay, then my next account is stationery, so I check in my CJ. Okay, stationery, I bought stationery of 800 rand. Stationery is an expense, so it increases on the debit and decreases on the credit. So you'll have your total brought forward from the previous month. And then because we're buying stationery, so our stationery increases, this is why we've got on the 31st, because stationery has got its own column. On the 31st, creditors control, the CJ, and we bought 800 rands worth. Ooh. So remember, when you buy with cash, then this would be bank and from your CPJ, but we're buying on credit, so it's creditors control and our CJ. Okay, now we can do our next journal, which is creditors allowances. So creditors allowances, let's look at trading stock. So there's a trading stock column in my creditors allowances journal, because this is the trading stock that we are returning. So because we are returning it, we no longer have that trading stock with us. Okay, so on the 31st, because it's got its own column, creditors control, this is from the CAJ, okay, of 40 rand, okay, because it decreases the trading stock account. All right, then creditors control is our next one. So we've got creditors control here, and because this, when we get an allowance, that amount gets deducted from our account, so we don't owe that money anymore because we're getting an allowance for it. So that's why it decreases our account. So 2001 Jan on the 31st, because it's got its own column, my contra account will be total allowances. Okay, so total allowances, because it's from the creditors allowances journal. So I can look at this and know that this is how many allowances I was given. So how much trading stock I return, the allowances given with equipment, the allowances given with stationery. So this amount was 190. Okay, then stationery, so I check in my CAJ. Okay, stationery's got its own column because I returned stationery, so that means I don't have that stationery anymore, so that's why my stationery is decreasing. So 2001 Jan on the 31st, because it's got its own column, creditors control, the CAJ, and that was 150 rand. Okay, so that gets deducted from our stationery account because we don't have that stationery anymore. Then we look at our creditors ledger. So this is where our transactions will come in place, because we have to list all the transactions made from our creditors. So for Sparky and Co, we've got a balance brought down, so it wasn't put up here, so that's why I put XXX, because this will be in your creditors ledger already. Okay, so you would write your balance brought down from the previous month, and then we check what Sparky and Co did, or what we did with Sparky and Co. So first we purchased goods, and then we got an allowance, and nothing else happened. So let's do the 9th. Okay, my details, invoice number X4. Okay, and with our creditors, remember with creditors control, decreases on the debit and increases on the credit. So if we owe more money, our account will increase, so that's 400 Rand over here, and then you would write your balance after that. Then on the 10th, we had debit note J9, okay, and this decreased our account, so it goes on the debit side of 40 Rand. So we would take this balance minus 40 and get a new balance. Okay, then that's all for Sparky & Co. So now I look at macro supplies. So on the 15th and 17th, I had transactions with macro supplies. So on the 15th, right, I bought equipment and stationery, and this was invoice number B2. Okay, this increased my account by 2,000 Rand because it was equipment and stationery together, and then I would find my balance. Then on the 17th, I returned goods, so this was DN, so debit note J10, decreased my account by 150 Rand, and then I would work out my balance here. Okay, then it seems as though I'm missing a page. Okay, let me just take, okay, so we'll just do one for us. So then we've got Alco Services. Alright, so for Alco Services, you would just have your 190 that you purchased, so it would just look like this. So 2001 Jan, you would have your balance, and then you would have your invoice number B12 190 and your balance. Okay, so please let me know if there are any questions with this, and please do the exercise that I asked you guys to do after watching this.